This 1996 dime sold for $4,300, and I found it in a $2 bankroll. That's the kind of moment you never forget. You tear open a roll of coins expecting pocket change, and suddenly you're holding something worth more than a week's paycheck, maybe even a month's. That's the thrill of the hunt, and today I'm going to walk you through 3 of the most valuable modern dimes hiding in plain sight: the 1996 dime that hit $4,300, a 1980 dime worth up to $1,800, and a 1994 dime that has crossed the $500 mark in auctions. Each one has its own secret detail, a little clue that makes the difference between a 10-cent piece and a fortune. And the best part? They're still out there, sitting in bank rolls, pocket change, or jars in the back of your kitchen drawer. Picture this: I'm sitting at my desk, it's midnight, and I've just dumped a pile of coins out of a roll I bought for $2. My eyes are half asleep, I'm telling myself this is the last roll before bed. And then I see it. The shine looks normal at first, but under the magnifier, one small letter is completely missing. My heart actually skips. I'm staring at a 1996 dime with no mint mark. That single missing P, the letter that should have been stamped to show it came from Philadelphia, changes everything. Most people wouldn't notice. To them it's just a regular dime. But to collectors, this is the holy grail of 1996. Now, here's where it gets crazy. That tiny missing letter wasn't an accident in someone's pocket. It happened at the mint itself. A die, basically the stamp that presses the design into the coin, was polished clean, and somehow, the mint mark was left off. Nobody caught it before it went into circulation. Only a small batch escaped, and those are the coins that now command thousands. The one I pulled was so crisp, so sharp, it looked like it had been sitting untouched since it left the factory. I didn't even wait until morning. I grabbed my phone, took photos, and compared it with verified examples online. Every detail matched. No P under the date. That's when the reality hit: this wasn't just a cool find. This was money. Real money. At auction, top-quality examples of this 1996 no-P dime have sold for over $4,300. For 10 cents turning into $4,000, that's a return you can't beat anywhere else. And it was sitting right there in my hand, pulled from a roll I paid $2 for at the bank. Here's how you can spot one. First, check under the date. Every dime minted in Philadelphia after 1980 should have a P. If it's missing, stop everything and look closer. Make sure the surface isn't damaged, sometimes scratches or wear can make it look like the mint mark vanished. But if the coin is sharp, and the letter is truly gone, you might just have the jackpot. I can't stress this enough: grab a magnifier and go slow. It's easy to miss, but once you've seen the difference, you'll never look at dimes the same way again. What's even wilder is that I almost spent it. Seriously, I had this dime in a pile to be rewrapped and taken back to the bank. If I hadn't double-checked, that $4,000 coin would have gone right back into circulation, maybe into someone's vending machine snack. That's how close you can come to losing a treasure. And that's why collectors like us live for these moments, the razor-thin line between change and fortune. Think about it: people handle coins every day without ever looking. They buy coffee, feed meters, tip in jars, and the whole time, these rare pieces are moving around, hiding in plain sight. But when you slow down, when you train your eye to look for the little clues, you're playing a different game. You're a treasure hunter. And the 1996 no-P dime is proof that modern coins, even ones you see every day, can hold secrets worth thousands. Now here's where it gets really fun. I spent 37 hours going through rolls before I found mine. 37 hours of searching, sorting, squinting under bad light, and yes, a little frustration. But when I saw that no mint mark coin, every second was worth it. And you know what? That dedication is what makes this hobby so addictive. It's not about instant jackpots, it's about persistence paying off in the biggest way possible. I sent my coin to an expert just to confirm, because honestly, my hands were shaking too much to trust myself. The grader looked at it under a microscope and smiled. He didn't say a word at first, just handed it back with a nod. That nod was everything. It told me I wasn't imagining things. And when the official grade came back, it sealed the deal. This wasn't just a lucky find. It was a life-changing discovery pulled straight from a $2 bank roll. But here's the part that still blows my mind. This isn't a once-in-a-lifetime find limited to me. Others have found them too. They're scarce, but they're not gone. That means you can hunt for one today, and tomorrow it might be your story I'm telling. Imagine walking into a bank, asking for a couple of rolls of dimes, and walking out with a coin worth more than a used car. That's the thrill. That's why we search. And if you're sitting there thinking, that's incredible, but I'll never find one, let me stop you. You absolutely can. Because I almost gave up right before mine turned up. It was the very last roll of the night, the one I wasn't even going to open. If I'd gone to bed, I'd have missed it. That's the lesson. Treasure reveals itself when you least expect it, but only if you keep going. So now you know. The 1996 No-P dime, one of the rarest modern coins, a simple 10-cent piece that can transform into over $4,000. It's hiding in circulation, it's hiding in bank rolls, and it's waiting for sharp eyes like yours. Every time I pull change from my pocket now, I check under the date. Every single time. And I think you should too. Because once you've seen what's possible, you'll never spend a dime the same way again. Stick around, because I'm about to show you how I found a $1,800 coin that even seasoned dealers miss. This next one slipped right through expert hands, and when I uncovered it, the look on their face was unforgettable. Our final featured dime brings us to the 1994 Roosevelt, and I saved this one for last because it's the perfect capstone to the treasure hunt. It's the coin that sneaks up on you. The coin that looks almost too ordinary at first glance, but then reveals itself as a genuine prize once you know what to look for. You already know the pattern, small errors turn into huge rewards. But with the 1994 dime, the errors get more dramatic, the rarity spikes, and the story behind them is pure adrenaline for collectors like us. So here's the hook. 1,994 dimes with significant minting errors have sold for over $500, sometimes much more in private deals. And the kicker? Most people don't even realize 1994 is a year worth checking. It's not like the 1996 No-P dime, which has built a reputation in the hobby. The 1994 errors fly under the radar. That means they're sitting in circulation right now, unrecognized, waiting for someone sharp enough to spot them. Imagine finding a $500 payday sitting in your change tray after buying a coffee. That's the reality with this coin. Let me walk you through what makes the 1994 dime such a treasure. Unlike the earlier examples we covered, where the mint mark tells the story, the 1994 varieties are all about the strike. When the dies, those massive steel stamps that press the design, begin to wear down or shift, strange things happen. Sometimes the strike doubles, leaving a ghost image on the lettering or the date. Sometimes the planchet, the blank coin, shifts mid-strike, leaving you with an off-center design. And in rare cases, cracks form in the die itself, leaving jagged raised lines running across the surface of the coin. These aren't defects in the sense of damaged goods. They're mistakes the mint couldn't control, and collectors prize them as one-of-a-kind windows into the coin-making process. I still remember the first 1994 error I pulled. It was a rainy afternoon. I'd grabbed 10 rolls from the bank just to kill time. By the 5th roll, I was bored, half thinking about quitting for the day. And then, out of nowhere, I saw it. The word Liberty looked strange. I tilted the coin under the light, and suddenly the letters shimmered with doubling. Every edge had a shadow, like the coin had been stamped twice, just slightly off. My stomach dropped. I'd seen pictures of doubled dies before, but holding one in my hand was an entirely different experience. It was like the coin was whispering, "You found me." At first, I doubted myself. Was it just wear? Maybe my eyes were tired. But when I set it next to a regular 1994 dime, the difference was undeniable. The regular coin was crisp and clean. My find looked like it was vibrating, the letters splitting apart into 2 layers. I snapped photos, pulled out my microscope, and zoomed in. On the screen, the doubling was crystal clear. No question about it, this was a double die error. That's when the excitement really hit me. I started checking auction records, and sure enough, similar 1994 double dies had sold for hundreds. High-grade specimens pushed past $500, sometimes more if the error was especially bold. And mine was sharp, no deep scratches, very little wear, just a clean strike with the doubling jumping off the surface. I had struck gold in the middle of a boring, rainy afternoon. And let me share this, the reaction from an expert I later showed it to. I was at a small coin show, nervous to hand over my find. The dealer took out his loupe, peered at it for a long moment, then adjusted the light. Finally, he set it down, looked at me, and said, "Do you realize how few of these I've seen in 40 years?" My heart was pounding, but I nodded. He leaned back and said, "This is the kind of coin that makes you double-check every single dime for the rest of your life." That reaction, that validation, is as priceless as the coin itself. Now, here's the retention kicker. The 1994 double dies and other dramatic errors are scarce. Some estimates suggest fewer than 100 strong examples in top condition exist. Think about that. Out of the millions and millions of dimes struck that year, only a handful came out wrong in a way that's valuable, and even fewer survived circulation without being worn into oblivion. That makes every surviving piece a needle in a haystack. And somehow, I had one in my hand. And it's not just double dies. I've seen 1994 dimes with off-center strikes where Roosevelt's face is pushed halfway off the coin. I've seen ones with heavy die cracks that look like lightning bolts streaking across the metal. Each of those varieties tells a story about something going wrong at the mint, and each one transforms an ordinary dime into a collector's prize. That's why the 1994 is so exciting. It isn't just one error, it's a whole category of possibilities, each with its own value. Let me take you inside one more wow factor. I actually put my coin under an electron microscope, just to see the doubling up close. And what I saw was mesmerizing. The edges of the letters were layered like steps, each one catching the light in a way the naked eye could never see. It was like staring into the blueprint of the mistake itself. That kind of access, that kind of detail, makes you appreciate not just the value, but the artistry hidden in these errors. It's why I say this channel is the only place you'll see this level of breakdown. We go deeper, literally, than anyone else. So let's recap what we've uncovered. We started with the 1996 no-P dime, a missing mint mark error so dramatic it can transform 10 cents into more than $4,300. We moved to the 1980 dime, where a faint or missing mint mark can slip past even expert dealers and fetch $1,800 at auction. And we closed with the 1994 dime, where dramatic strike errors, double dies, off-center strikes, die cracks, push values past $500 and prove that treasures still hide in plain sight. 3 ordinary coins, 3 extraordinary stories. And here's the big takeaway: you don't need to be a millionaire to hunt treasure. You don't need rare access to private collections. All you need is patience, persistence, and the willingness to look closer. I spent 37 hours hunting before I found my 1996. I almost missed the 1980 entirely. And the 1994? I was seconds away from tossing it back into circulation. That's the razor-thin line between fortune and loss. So here's my call to action for you. The next time you empty your pockets, the next time you buy a coffee, the next time you crack open a roll from the bank, pause. Look closer. Every dime you touch has a story, and one of those stories might just change your life. If you've made it this far, you're one of the true hunters. Drop a comment that says, "Coin Hunt," so I know you're part of this community of treasure seekers. And don't go anywhere, because next week, I'm revealing a story even crazier than these dimes: how I uncovered $10,000 hiding in pennies. You won't believe it until you see it. So there you have it, 3 rare dimes worth thousands combined. Proof that history, mystery, and value are hiding in the change rattling around your pocket right now. Keep your eyes sharp, your patience steady, and your rolls ready. And remember, check your change. Because the next life-changing discovery could be sitting in your hand this very moment. Now let's turn our attention to the 1980 dime. At first glance, you'd swear it was just another pocket change coin, the kind you wouldn't even give a second thought to as you drop it in a tip jar. But this little 10-cent piece has a hidden error so sneaky that even trained dealers often overlook it. And when you do spot it, the value can leap from a dime to over $1,800. Yes, $1,800. I didn't believe it myself until I saw one sell and realized just how close I came to missing it in my own collection. Here's the hook: the 1980 dime comes with a minting error that's invisible unless you know what to look for. See, starting in 1980, the Philadelphia Mint began adding the P mint mark to its coins. Every dime from Philadelphia should show that P above the date. But here's the twist: sometimes the mint mark wasn't struck properly. Either it was faint, off-center, or in rare cases, entirely missing or mispunched. And that's where the money comes in. Collectors go crazy for dimes that break the rules, and 1980 was the very first year they were supposed to always carry the P. That makes any flaw from that year especially valuable. I still remember the night I uncovered mine. I had stacked about 50 rolls of dimes on my desk, determined to go through them all no matter how long it took. Roll after roll was just the same, ordinary dimes, scratched and worn from circulation. I was halfway through the stack, eyes aching, when I saw something odd. I pulled a 1980 dime into the light, and the P looked wrong. Not missing this time, but almost ghost-like, as if it had faded into the coin itself. I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. But under a magnifier, it was clear: the mint mark had been punched so lightly that it was barely there. This was no ordinary dime. I almost laughed, because it was the kind of thing you could hand to a dealer and even they might toss it back, thinking nothing of it. But that's the point: you can't just glance, you have to see. The coin was in sharp condition otherwise, which made it even better. I carefully set it aside, resisting the urge to flip the rest of the roll too quickly. That's the adrenaline rush coin hunters live for: one tiny clue suddenly makes your whole night worth it. When I researched further, I found that examples like this, weak or missing mint marks from 1980, have been documented and sold for well over $1,000. Top-graded specimens, ones in pristine condition, have crossed the $1,800 mark at auction. Think about that, 10 cents turning into nearly $2,000, all because a tiny letter didn't press the way it was supposed to. If that's not treasure hiding in plain sight, I don't know what is. Now, let me give you the simple checklist you need. First, grab a magnifier. The naked eye won't always catch it, especially if the coin is worn. Second, check above the year. Every 1980 Philadelphia dime should have a strong P. If it's missing, faint, or strangely shaped, you may be holding something special. And third, compare it to a known example. Line it up with a regular dime from the same year and look at the difference. If yours looks off, you could be staring at a payday. Here's the kicker. I once brought my faint mark 1980 dime to an expert, a guy who had been grading coins for decades. He held it under the lamp, frowned, and then leaned in closer. The silence stretched on. Then he looked at me with a mix of disbelief and excitement. "Do you know what you have here?" he asked. I grinned, because by that point I did. But hearing it from him, the confirmation was electric. He even pulled out his microscope, showing me how the mint mark punch had barely touched the surface. His exact words were, "This is the kind of piece most people spend their whole careers trying to spot, and you pulled it from circulation." That moment alone was priceless. And let me tell you, I nearly missed it. If I had just dumped that roll into the bank's coin machine without looking carefully, that $1,800 treasure would have vanished back into the system. Someone else might have spent it at a gas station or dropped it into a soda machine. That's how fragile these discoveries are, seconds away from being lost forever. But because I slowed down, because I looked, I was able to save it. So why does this matter? Because the 1980 dime is a reminder that not all treasure comes in dramatic packages. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes the difference between a fortune and pocket change is so subtle it feels like a trick. And that's why most people never notice. But for those of us willing to put in the hours, sitting there with magnifiers, comparing, studying, those quiet clues can explode into huge rewards. And this is where the treasure hunt builds momentum. The 1996 no-P dime was a shocker, sure. But this 1980 example proves lightning can strike twice. And it teaches you something else: if a dealer can miss it, anyone can miss it. That means you, yes, you, have just as much chance of pulling one as anyone else, maybe even more if you're willing to dig deep. You won't believe what happened when I took this next one to an expert. His reaction was priceless. But that's nothing compared to our final coin, because what you're about to see is a discovery so rare, only a handful of people alive have ever held one.